Welcome to the Pencil Bob channel. I hope you enjoy my stories. Please like and subscribe, and hit that notification icon so you never miss out. Now on with the stories.
Welcome to my rant. Sorry if it is a bit long. My frustration is through the roof as I try to put my thoughts into words. The irrational actions of our HOA have finally pushed me to the edge. It's astonishing how they believe they can act without any accountability just because they hold positions of power and control the community's funds. This situation makes it clear that owning a home in an HOA community doesn't automatically qualify someone to manage it effectively. Unfortunately, this is a reality that's completely lost on the people who've decided they're in charge. Despite their glaring lack of expertise, I've been living in this community for over a decade, and I've seen everything. It's always the same group of bullies and wannabes who think they're something special just because they've got a title. They ignore advice from anyone who actually knows what they're doing, and instead, they make it up as they go along. It's like they're playing a game of HOA, and they're the only ones who know the rules. Don't even get me started on the so-called elections. They're a joke. They hold these sham meetings where only the same few people show up, and they just rubber stamp whatever the board wants. There's no discussion, no debate, no transparency, just a bunch of yes men and yes women who are too scared to rock the boat. I've tried to serve on the board 3 times, and each time I've been shut down. They don't want anyone who actually knows what they're doing because that would mean they'd have to listen to someone else's opinions and ideas. No, they'd rather just keep doing things their way, even if it means running the community into the ground. And what's the point of having an HOA if they're not going to fulfill their fiduciary duties? They're supposed to maintain the common areas, buildings, and roads. They're supposed to provide financial reports and collect dues from those who aren't paying. But no, they'd rather just sit back and collect their checks while the rest of us suffer. People often say, just run for the board and change things from the inside. But it's not that easy. The same people who are running the show now will just find ways to block or silence you. They've got their own little clique, and they're not about to let anyone else in. And what about the owners who are just trying to live their lives and pay their dues? We're not asking for much. We just want to be able to enjoy our homes and our community without being hassled by the HOA. But no, they keep sending us violation notices and threatening us with fines. They act like they're above the law. They think they can do whatever they want, and no one will hold them accountable. But I've got news for them. There are laws and regulations that apply to HOAs, and if they're not following them, someone will eventually take them to task. I've heard of receivership, where the court takes over the HOA and appoints a receiver to manage the community. It's a last resort, but sometimes it's the only way to get things back on track. And you know what? I'm not opposed to it. If it means getting rid of the current bunch of idiots running our HOA, then so be it. But until that day comes, I'm stuck living in a community run by a bunch of unsophisticated bullies who think they're something they're not. It's expensive to live with stupid people, and I'm not just talking about the money. I'm talking about the stress, the anxiety, the feeling of being trapped in a never-ending nightmare. So, to all those people out there thinking of buying a home in an HOA community, let me give you some advice. Stay away. Don't do it. You'll regret it. The HOA will screw you over sooner or later if you don't screw them over first. It's a game of screw or be screwed, and I'm not willing to play anymore. I still remember the first time I realized just how bad things were with our HOA. It was a sunny Saturday morning, and I had just finished mowing my lawn. I was feeling pretty good, enjoying a cold drink on my porch when I saw one of the board members walking down the street. She had a clipboard in hand, and I could see her making notes as she walked. I didn't think much of it until a few days later when I received a violation notice in the mail. Apparently, my lawn was too long, even though I had just mowed it. It was ridiculous. I went to the next board meeting to contest the violation. I thought it would be a simple matter of explaining the situation and getting the notice dismissed. Boy, was I wrong? The board members were hostile from the start. They acted like I was wasting their time. When I tried to explain that I had just mowed my lawn, they didn't want to hear it. They told me the violation stood, and if I didn't correct it, I would be fined. That was just the beginning. Over the years, I've received countless violation notices for the most trivial things. Once, I was cited for having my trash cans out too early, even though they were out at the same time as everyone else's. Another time, I got a notice because the color of my front door didn't match the approved color palette, even though it was the same color it had been for years. I've tried talking to other homeowners about these issues, but most of them are too afraid to speak up. They're worried about retaliation from the board. And I can't say I blame them. I've seen what happens to those who try to stand up to the HOA. They get targeted with even more violations and fines. It's like living in a police state, but instead of actual police, it's a bunch of power-hungry neighbors who think they're the Gestapo. One of the most infuriating things is how the board handles the community's finances. Or should I say, mishandles? Every year, they increase our dues, claiming they need more money for maintenance and improvements. But where does that money actually go? Certainly not to fixing the potholes in our roads or repairing the broken streetlights. No, it seems to disappear into a black hole, and we're left with nothing to show for it. I've asked for financial reports, but getting them is like pulling teeth. When they finally do provide them, they're incomplete and full of discrepancies. It's obvious they're hiding something, but they refuse to answer any questions. They just tell us to trust them. Trust them? The same people who can't even manage basic maintenance tasks? I don't think so. It's reached a point where I've considered selling my home and moving somewhere without an HOA. But the thought of uprooting my life and starting over is daunting. This is my home. I've put so much time, effort, and money into it. Why should I be the one to leave? Why should I let them win? There has to be a way to hold these people accountable. I've looked into legal options, but the cost is prohibitive. Hiring a lawyer to take on the HOA would be expensive, and there's no guarantee of success. It's frustrating to feel so powerless, knowing that these bullies are getting away with their antics because they know most people can't afford to fight back. Sometimes, I fantasize about what it would be like if the state or county stepped in and took over. Maybe then we'd have a chance at real accountability and transparency. Maybe then we could finally see some positive changes in our community. But that's just a dream, and reality is far more grim. I've started keeping a detailed record of everything that happens with the HOA. Every violation notice, every interaction with the board, every financial report, or lack thereof. I don't know if it will ever come in handy, but it makes me feel a little better to have a record. Maybe one day, someone will actually listen. Maybe one day, there will be a reckoning. Until then, I continue to live my life as best I can, trying to avoid the HOA's radar. It's a constant source of stress and frustration. But what choice do I have? Moving isn't a viable option right now, and fighting them head-on seems like a losing battle. So I keep my head down, pay my dues, and hope for the best. But deep down, I know that this isn't sustainable. Something has to give. I can't keep living in this state of perpetual anxiety and anger. It's affecting my health, my relationships, my overall well-being. I deserve better. We all deserve better. So here I am, putting my thoughts into words, hoping that by sharing my story, someone out there might relate. Maybe they'll think twice before buying a home in an HOA community. Maybe they'll find the courage to stand up to their own HOA bullies. Or maybe, just maybe, they'll realize that they're not alone in this struggle. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is, a struggle. A struggle for fairness, for accountability, for the right to live peacefully in our own homes. And it's a struggle I'm not willing to give up on, even if the odds are stacked against me. I remember a particularly egregious incident that still makes my blood boil. It was a couple of years ago when a new family moved into the neighborhood. They were young and enthusiastic, eager to make their house a home. They painted their front door a bright, cheerful color, yellow. It looked fantastic and added a bit of personality to our otherwise drab street. But the HOA didn't see it that way. Within days, the family received a violation notice. The color wasn't approved, they said. It had to be changed immediately, or they would face fines. The family tried to appeal, but the board was unyielding. They ended up having to repaint the door a dull, HOA-approved shade of beige. It was such a demoralizing experience for them. They had just moved in, and already they were being harassed. It was a stark reminder of the pettiness and control the HOA exerted over every aspect of our lives. The situation with the yellow door became a hot topic among the neighbors. We were all outraged on behalf of the new family, but no one felt safe enough to openly challenge the board. The fear of retaliation was too strong. So we grumbled in private, expressing our frustration in hushed tones at community gatherings and over backyard fences. One night, after a particularly heated discussion with a few of my neighbors, I decided to do some research. I wanted to find out if there was any legal recourse we could take against the HOA. I spent hours online, reading through articles, forum posts, and legal documents. It was a daunting task, and the more I read, the more hopeless it seemed. Most of the advice boiled down to the same thing: get on the board and change things from within. But we all knew how that would go. The board had a stranglehold on the elections, and any attempt to break their grip was quickly squashed. They had their loyal followers, people who either didn't care about the corruption or were too afraid to speak up. I found some information about state regulations and laws governing HOAs, but enforcement was another matter entirely. It seemed like there were plenty of rules on paper, but very little in the way of actual oversight. The burden of proof was on the homeowners, and the process of filing complaints and pursuing legal action was both time-consuming and expensive. In my darkest moments, I've wondered if it's even worth it. Why not just sell and move on? But then I think about the principle of it all. Why should we have to leave our homes because of a few power-hungry individuals? Why should we give up on our community? There's a sense of injustice that keeps me fighting, even when it feels like an uphill battle. It's not just about me. It's about all of us who call this place home. We deserve a voice. We deserve to be heard. We deserve to live in a community where the rules are fair, the leaders are accountable, and everyone has a chance to contribute. But for now, it feels like we're stuck in a never-ending cycle of frustration and futility. The HOA continues to operate with impunity, and we continue to suffer the consequences of their mismanagement and arrogance. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but until something changes, it's our reality. So, here I am, writing down my experiences and venting my frustrations. It's a small act of defiance, a way to reclaim a bit of control in a situation where I often feel powerless. Maybe it won't change anything, but at least it's something. At least I'm not completely silent. And who knows, maybe someday, someone will read this and feel inspired to take action. Maybe they'll have better luck than I've had. Maybe they'll find a way to break the stranglehold the HOA has on our community. Until then, I'll keep fighting in my own way, and I'll keep hoping for a better future. For now, though, it's just another day in the life of an HOA community member. Another day of watching the bullies in charge make decisions that affect us all, without any input or oversight. Another day of feeling trapped in a situation that seems impossible to change. But as long as I'm here, I'll keep speaking out. I'll keep documenting the injustices. I'll keep pushing for accountability, because that's all I can do. And maybe, just maybe, it'll be enough to make a difference someday. I bought a house that didn't have an active HOA, and they brought it to life to serve their needs. Your words ring true, unsophisticated bullies. Never again. The problem with HOAs being run by inexperienced people is no one else is willing to step up and do the job. Myself included. We had 3 people run unopposed for the 3 board spots. And our community is over 300 people. Boards are filled with communal narcissists for sure. Google it. It is so fitting for so many board members. I absolutely hate how they pat each other on the back and complain. They are simply volunteers, and I am of the belief that they keep running and stacking things so they stay in power because they do get some sort of pay, reward. They might be volunteering, but they are getting paid with either power and control, desire adulation, because they are busybodies, etc. There is no way they are doing it just because they are good people who want to make a difference in improving the quality of life of owners. So the poor me, I'm just a volunteer, is gross. I love that our board sent out a missive that no one was allowed to approach and talk to board members outside of the open part of board meeting, and remind owners of this rule before any association social event. Like, really?
I would like to thank you for watching the video to the end. To encourage us to make more videos, please like, subscribe, comment, as well as share. Check out this other video if you haven't already.